Let's make sure everything clicks. Hello.
Hello.
We are live. We are live. Good morning. So I wanted to say hello to everyone. I want to welcome Dr. Cyndi Laurin, and I want to give you guys a little bit of background about her. I know those of you that were at SEO Spring Training Digital Marketing Conference have already met her and love her. Not as much as I love her, of course, but I know I'm fangirling and gushing. So, but I just wanted to introduce you. Dr. Cyndi Laurin is an internationally recognized business transformation expert. The concepts that she's going to be discussing today, including the growth alignment framework and how to create your own luck in work and life, are featured in her latest book, Orchestrated Randomness: How to Create Your Own Luck in Work and Life. Whether you're a CEO, business owner, inspired leader, entrepreneur, all the things, you'll find some actionable insights that will allow you to use them right away. I am going to just dive right in and let Cyndi say hi and kind of get started.
Hi. No, I'm super excited about this. I am hoping that the book is going to be coming out in the next few months. So it's been really fun to start sharing it on podcasts and speaking engagements, and I'm getting really nice feedback from it. So yeah, let's go. Let's dig in.
Again, okay, I'm going to give you the floor. So it's all you. I'm going to keep an eye on questions, so I may pop back in here and there. So yeah, just it's all you. Have fun.
Well, I hope there's some questions because I don't want to just talk for an hour.
I know, right? Well, we'll get started, and we're streaming out to Facebook and YouTube, Terry's LinkedIn channel.
Nice.
So usually people pop in here and there. I invited a few people, so I'm looking forward to seeing who shows up and what kind of wonderful, exciting questions they have. But I will let you kind of get started, but I'm still here in the background, so I'm not running away.
Well, probably would be helpful to understand what the growth alignment framework is and how it came to be. I actually started, I read an article actually in Harvard Business Review back in 1998, and it was about the 5 stages of an organization's life cycle. And I found the article really compelling, but it was missing pieces to it, and I wanted to really test it and apply it and see how I could use it in my work. So literally over the last nearly 30 years, I've been refining this framework and to what it is today, which is the growth alignment framework. And basically it's 6 stages of growth. And one of the things that's unique about it is that oftentimes growth is reflected as revenue, headcount, years in business, which are all, very important, obviously, but there's a layer that's been missing. And this is where I think it comes very handy. And it's really a layer of organizational maturity. And it doesn't mean that there's like immature companies and mature ones, but it really is how intentional and how, what level of systems and processes have they put in place along their journey to get to where they want to go. And the other thing about the framework is that, the 6 stages in it, the goal isn't necessarily to get to stage 6. The goal is really to get wherever you want that business to go. So let me run through it really quick, and then we'll come back to how it sort of applies to different businesses. But obviously, the first stage is starting up. It's for startups, obviously, and if anyone's ever started or done the entrepreneurial exciting startup, it's chaotic and fun and crazy, and you can't stay in that stage forever. You'll burn everybody out, including yourself and your family. So what tends to happen is you start hitting this wall of gosh, do we have enough cash to keep this thing going? And once that cash is proven, or the model is proven outside of your sphere of influence, people beyond your friends and family are buying your product or service, then that's where you really hit what I call a crisis catalyst. So each stage of growth has a crisis catalyst. Crisis meaning, the Mandarin term for it is it's danger plus opportunity. So it's like, oh no, we're up against this wall. We can't break through it. We're trying all of these things. We just can't seem to get to that next level. So the next level that companies tend to want to go to is really the next stage in the growth alignment framework. So once you've got enough cash, things are stable and predictable in that manner. Then what tends to happen is we need some foundational structure, because we can't grow any further unless we put some systems and processes in place that will allow that next level of growth. So the second stage is called getting organized. And it could be as simple as creating a functional org chart. It could be as simple as mapping out your core critical processes. But all of these things have to take place, because you're not going to be able to get to that next level of growth, of expansion, without having the foundation set up. So data dashboards, strategy, all of these things start coming together in that stage 2 place of getting organized. After that stage, the crisis catalyst, we want to grow. So once again, we push our ideas, our concepts, products, services out in a different way, though this time. This is more regional based, different features, different verticals. So it's a different kind of growth than when we were starting up. Once we've grown bigger, again, things start happening. Life gets complex. We have to focus inward again. And this is really where we need to pull together, because you've got this situation where there's foundational systems and processes in place, but everybody's optimizing their own little independent area. We call it siloed. There's not a lot of cross-functional communication. It's not really clear who owns what. And so that crisis catalyst is, we really want to innovate now. We want to continue to be relevant to the customer or client base that we have. But again, we have to build some foundation for that. So that's really called pulling together. So the team has to come together. We have to put, again, systems and processes in place that allow the team to cross-functionally collaborate. Oftentimes when I work with clients, they're like, man, we have silos. We want everyone working together. So we're just going to create a meeting. Well, a meeting's a meeting. It's not necessarily systems and processes to create the conditions for that collaboration. So I'm all about systems and processes to help people do the best work they can. So once that we've pulled things together, now they can innovate together. And the kicker in this one is, are we optimizing each functional area of the business? We need to switch and start optimizing the relationships between the functions of the business. And that really gets us to a place where we can ensure our relevancy to the marketplace, and we're still creating value.
Hello. I wanted to pop in, I don't want it to be like you lecturing out. So if it's okay to have a little bit of a dialogue. So I know you have your framework, and this is something that you've cultivated and created based on your experience working with so many different companies over so many different years.
Yes.
One of the things as a business owner that I kind of figured out, this was a few years ago, I kind of had one of those aha moments where most of us start as entrepreneurs because we don't like working for someone else. We don't want to follow their rules. We want to go do it ourselves. It's going to be great. I can totally do this. I can do better than my boss, right? But I have found after you get out on your own, you have that really exciting growth period where oh, I've got money and I can do this and I don't have to answer to anybody else, not realizing your clients are who you answer to. But you have to create those systems and processes. You have to take your little entrepreneur opportunity and go corporate. Yeah. That's the only way you can grow, right? You don't really see any way out of that, do you?
Well, I would be cautioned about the word corporate, because sometimes people will think, well, I don't want to become corporate. I like the familial culture we have. I like empowering people to make decisions, and corporate just feels like robotic and too many standards. And so there is a way to grow. And really with the framework, stage 6 isn't better than stage 1. It's really where you want to be. So as an example, my parents had an insulation business in Sacramento for 40 years, and they were always right between stage 2 and 3. They were getting organized and they were growing bigger. And sometimes big opportunities to scale would show up. And I remember oftentimes at the dinner table, my mom would be like, let's go for it. There's this new development. They want to use us. And my dad would say, simmer down a bit, because if we go to that scale, everything's going to change. We're going to have this, that, and the other. And so they decided to stay comfortably within stage 2 and 3 for 40 years and had a great business, great lifestyle. So it's not always about going corporate or getting to that place where it's this, very huge. I've worked with those and they're great. They're slow moving, but not everybody wants to be corporate. So it's really finding that sweet spot of growth where you want to be. And of course, some companies want to scale, and they want to scale fast, and they get over their skis sometimes because they don't rein in the growth to build the structure so that they can fulfill on their promises. But other companies just kind of want to stay in this really comfortable space, maybe have a lifestyle business or something in between that big corporation and that crazy chaotic startup.
So that's okay. Like I know that businesses are ebbing and flowing, and there's different stages of growth, and business owners also all have different ideas of what that growth looks like. There's no one size fits all. So all of the framework that you're proposing is totally fine, even if you want to stay at a certain comfortable level, or if you want to blow the doors open and mega growth. Like it's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great actually. The challenge is knowing who do you want to be when you grow up? Like, as a business, who do you want to be? How big do we want to be? I mean, some people, they're like, I want to build an empire. Others are like my parents. I really like where we're at. We have a really great lifestyle. We're making great money. Opportunities are showing up for us to get bigger. So we're doing something right. And then we can very intentionally make those choices of, yes, we want to be that big, go have all the developers coming to us, or we like to stay with the custom homes and commercial. And that's really where they honed in. And like I said, 40 years of a great business that's success. So stage 6 isn't better than stage 1. It's just a different goal. So,
how often do you find people pop in and around all those stages? Is that
nothing is static. So I kind of think of it like chutes and ladders. So let's say you get to stage 4 and you're like, yes, we're there. We're pulling things together, and we're innovating together. It's great. Well, outside circumstances change all the time. Easy to hit that chute and slide back to, we're back at stage 1 now. And a great example of this was during COVID. So COVID shifted the way people did business so significantly that a lot of companies slid back to startup. Like, do we have enough cash to keep this thing going? And really force them to think about, what is our critical path moving forward, given what happened in the outside world. So it's never like we get to that stage, we throw our stake in the ground and say, yay, we're here. Because like in the book, Orchestrated Randomness, it is really that. Randomness happens. It's those companies that learn to leverage it, orchestrate it to their advantage, that have those happy, successful businesses. But something you said I want to talk about also, that whole idea of one size doesn't fit all. And this is where I'm trying to start a movement, maybe build a movement, which is, yes, revenue, headcount, years in business, those are very important. But I could say, hey, how's business? Oh, it's great. We're making $5 million a year. That doesn't tell me anything about how much is bleeding out the bottom. Right. So I kind of think of it like a fishbowl. Like if you have a fishbowl and there's water in the fishbowl, revenue is the water we're pouring into the fishbowl, but there could be a lot of cracks. So you could be working really hard with really tiny margins, or some industries are known for just having really tiny margins. So there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that comes into play when we're using the framework, because it literally is your map. It's like, here we are right here. Here's X. That's where we want to go. What's the best path to get there? And for some, it's becoming, just more effective and efficient at what they already have, versus, we want to scale and be, in multi-locations all over the US or globally. It's just a different goal. So what I'm really hoping is, with this movement that I'm trying to generate, is to look at business maturity as an overlay on top of revenue, headcount, and years in business, because there's success and demise, at all levels. It just depends on where they want to be versus where they are.
And you don't necessarily have a specific industry that you focus on. No, it could be widgets, it could be SEO, it could be whatever.
Yeah. I have healthcare clients. I have an engineering consultancy client. I've got, manufacturing. I love manufacturing because everything's so visible. It's kind of like the back of my hand. But I've been in construction and pharmaceuticals. I've seen every industry. There's really nothing that surprises me anymore. And I think it's really because, when you love your work and you're in it to win it for decades, you start to see patterns. And I mean, I started seeing patterns obviously early on after reading that HBR article, because I was like, wow, this is fascinating. Is this true? That was, you have to be curious in business. If you're not curious, you're not going to move to any next stage. So you have to really be curious and willing to take action. And so that's really been, how I run my own business, is to be curious and test things out, test and refine, test and refine. So it's really industry agnostic, size agnostic. It's really just the framework. It's introspective work and not prescriptive work. Like I wouldn't say, do these things on the checklist and you'll get to stage 3. It's very introspective type work that is done to get clients to those next levels.
Would you say that like you don't have you have a framework, but you don't necessarily have like the exact same thing for every client, right? Like, because I know that a lot of industries let's niche down so we can wash, rinse, and repeat. And I get that. I validate that for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I struggle embracing that, but for you with coaching, it's not a one size fits all, right?
No,
because there's so many moving parts and pieces.
Yeah, there is no one size. there's no small, medium, and large. It's there's everything. There's so many. What I love about the work is that there are so many different elements that make it really fascinating. I mean, business is complex. Sometimes we over engineer things and make it way more complex than it has to be. So, my yes. So my role as a consultant is to really help business owners and leaders understand, there's a fine balance. And really, if we keep it as simple as possible and focus on growth and infrastructure, I think of them as 2 horses. I always talk about the horse race. So you got the growth horse and the infrastructure or fulfillment horse. Man, if one horse gets too far ahead of the other, bad things happen. So wisdom is really knowing, when do I pull in the reins on one horse or the other and shift my time, energy, and resources from growth to building a structure so that we can grow more, or that we can replace the churn of our business. Because maybe, some industries naturally have a fair amount of churn. So their goal is just making sure that they replace it. And then they have a moderate growth goal, to stay ahead of the game.
Okay.
There's no one size.
Okay. Well, I kind of interrupted you as you were going through the different levels, so I'll let you get back to that.
No. I love the interruption. I prefer this versus just talking.
Okay.
so jump in anytime.
I can totally do it. So there's a question how can a business owner or team member or whatever know what stage that they're in right now?
Yeah. So I created, and I think we're going to show it at the end, as a growth readiness scorecard. And I would encourage, it's just a QR code where there's a number of questions. There it is. So anyone can scan the QR code and run through the series of questions. And then I provide a custom report to them. And believe me, it's not uncommon for a person to feel like their culture is in stage 5, but their leadership is in stage 3. And maybe the way that they reward and compensate is in stage 1. I mean, that's wonderful. I love when I see that happen, because it tells me there's a lot of opportunity to make improvements quickly. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. It's very rare that a person does the growth readiness scorecard and knows exactly where they are across all elements of the stage. I've had a couple come close, and usually they're startups, and they're just like, everything is hard.
Yes.
Business
owner, I validate. We do have another question. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. So I guess your framework changed post-COVID. Do you see yourself changing or tweaking it now that AI is more available in all aspects of life and business? I already know your stand on AI. You're a big fan.
Yeah, actually, the framework itself didn't change post-COVID. The framework is really based on foundational human and business dynamics. So the framework itself has remained the same. It's the way that companies leverage the blueprint that's probably changed. So my clients that I had during COVID, they sailed through pretty quickly. The ones I picked up during COVID, we had a lot of heavy front work to do to get them to have that foundation in place. And then they could float pretty well. We didn't have a ton of struggle with my clients just having that in place, having that blueprint in place. But yes, AI, I use AI every day. It's open on my computer every day. I prefer Claude and Perplexity just for the work that I do. It's very handy. I use it with all my clients, and it's very, everybody knows it's all about the prompt, but it's very conversational. And I developed a little model I called AI squared, which is artificial intelligence plus authentic intelligence, because some people think, oh no, AI is going to take away my job. Well, AI can't be more or less intelligent than you. You have to know what you're getting from it and know how to refine that to serve the purposes that you need. So I do continue to refine the framework and add more elements to it that as I see patterns show up. And over almost 30 years, because it's so really based on basic human and organizational dynamics, there's not a lot of massive changes that take place. There are little tweaks now and tweaks in language to make it more accessible to people and stuff like that.
So on that AI topic, because AI is popping and it's hot right now, like everybody that I've seen is going, well, I see people that are using ChatGPT, all of the LLMs, like there's some amazing ones out there that really dig in deep, get to the core. And a lot of people are using it for coding and for some very high level stuff. But like a lot of the general public is, well, going to ChatGPT for recipes and ingredients and, hacking my life and, how do I get to be a better person and stuff like that. So I imagine that there is some basic information that the LLMs can provide as far as growth and scaling and infrastructure. But tell me a little bit more about how you're specialized. Like you can see things that maybe the AI can't, that you can identify, and that increases your value as a consultant.
Yeah, I have a great example. So one of my clients, they're in Australia. They have a really great online math program. I'll give it CTC Math. Just huge shout out, best online math program on the planet. I love that, love it. But we were refining the performance incentive program, and I hope Nadim is watching. So we were refining it. We wanted to use AI to see what it could come up with for us, and we wanted it to be performance based and also salary based. We're trying to find that right combination. And it was funny, the nuances that AI missed was really interesting. So we'd broken it into 3 different tiers. And ultimately, when we ran the calculation, we were trying to have it create a calculator for us. When we ran it initially, it was like the people that were the lower performers, meeting expectation, not the high and all of that. If there were more people or less people in that pool, they were ending up making more money in their bonus or in their incentive program. Then in the top performers were like, this is a major problem. So we trained, we use AI like a colleague in the room or in the next room over. So we said, hey, there's a nuance. There's a human nuance that you're not aware of. And so we explained it to it, and it refined the calculator to not have the lower performers making more than the top based upon what tier they were in. But ultimately, we had to use our own intelligence to refine it enough that it actually works for the business. It got us quite a ways there, but the human nuance, that human curiosity, human creativity, that is not something that AI, I know there's a ton of people who will argue with me and say, oh no, it can create it. And it does. It creates so many different things. In my particular work, there are nuances about human psychological dynamics, team dynamics, culture dynamics, and organizational dynamics that are so nuanced AI doesn't understand those yet. I'm sure it will at some point, but it's not there yet. Yeah.
No, that's great feedback to know. Like, yeah, you can get on the right track, but you may not hit your final destination because, those little tweaks along the way. You also know if you're, 3 degrees off, your end result is going to be vastly to the left.
You're to the right. Different continent.
Yeah. So those little tiny tweaks early on, consistent course correct. I find that is the story of my life. Let's course correct.
Well, and that's what it's all about, right? If we're not in a place where we can test and refine, then we're not exposing our blind spots. We're not getting smarter. So
Yeah.
this is life. It's test and refine in our personal life. It's test and refine in our business life. And I think the folks that recognize that earlier on than later, they tend to move a little faster, because they're not afraid to try to test something out that's different than they've done before. And actually, this is something really good. This is something that's been going over really well with audiences lately, is really throwing out the word of change. Like, we're going to change this, we're going to change that. My clients don't use that language of change, because honestly, to team members, it feels like the leadership doesn't know what they're doing. So we're going to, they read another book and we're changing this now. Like, God, just figure it out. And really, it doesn't set confidence that we really have as we're refining things. So we throw out change, we introduce refine. That just becomes the language. And then the team knows, okay, it's okay to experiment with something. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to get things. I mean, obviously we don't want big disasters, but they have to test things out and use some form of data to track whether or not the test is working or not working. It can't always be based upon gut. There needs to be something, some evidence that helps us keep that business moving forward. So I like refine over change. And I really like align over agree. I always kid that if nobody can agree even on the little things. Agree slows everything down. And then what tends to happen is we end up compromising, and then no one's happy. So throw out that whole, we have to agree on this. And again, this supports a test and refine culture to say, let's align around this and test it out for X amount of time, and then come back in retrospect and see if it's working or not. So, and what that would look like is, like, let's say, Elizabeth, you and I were trying to make a decision on something. You want one thing and I want another. I can say, you know what, I don't agree with you, and here's why. But I can align with you. I can rally behind your idea. Let's test it for 3 months, 6 months. Let's collect data on it to see how it's performing. And then we'll retrospect along the way and say, yeah, it's working. Okay, let's keep this. This is great. Or it's not getting us what we want. Let's pivot a bit. Let's shift. Let's refine a bit and try something else. And to me, that keeps my clients moving forward. There's no like.
Well, I'm a big fan of the fact that you are constantly talking data. Our industry is all about data. That and test and refine is foundational for our industry. Being in digital marketing, like, you test ads, you test pages, you test what is Google going to respond favorably to? What is Google like? Like, we have to reverse engineer, the largest search engines out there, because it's not like they tell us who they are and what they're going to do. So.
Right. And they can change their algorithm like tomorrow. And then you're like, wait, what? This worked yesterday.
And they do, right? Like, this totally used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. So test and refine is foundational for our industry. Data is foundational. And I think that alignment, let's use those words, that it is how we resonate together. We, I think, had like a pretty fast friendship, as far as we're on the same page. We're wanting the same things. We see things very, similarly. And so that's just like a thing I wanted to throw out there. So I was really excited, that you're into that.
Well, and I think too, for the marketing space, that has changed so quickly over even just the last few years. And now with AI, it's going to shift and move even faster. And I think the recommendation to your industry specifically would be, you're amazingly competent, adept, excellent, whatever the word is, fantastic at doing the test and refine with clients. You have to turn that inward to your own business as well. And I think that's where a lot of companies get stuck. I'm not just saying your business or that industry, but a lot of industries get stuck on, we're so great with our clients, but we're not really focusing inward. Or the flip is true. We're focusing so much inward that we're not, looking at what our clients are wanting. Both require systems and processes to collect that feedback, know what to do with it, and then know how to refine and meet the needs of stakeholders. That's the end game, right? It's just, can we solve a problem or fulfill a need for all stakeholders? If we got that down, the rest is easy peasy.
Yeah, we don't treat our own agency as our own client. Like, that's common in multiple industries. You hear the stories of the mechanic that has broken down cars because he's fixing everybody else's car, So no, I totally get that. So
Yeah.
Can you let me know what you think are some common signs that an organization is maybe stuck at a particular stage, other than the obvious of stagnant? Yeah, like
Yeah.
your revenue is not changing, that kind of thing. That seems pretty obvious, like to
Yeah.
me. But what do
Yes.
you see?
So usually it's in the language of, we're trying to get to this next level. We've been dealing with this challenge for years, or we've been dealing with this for several quarters. We can't seem to find our way around it or over it. And it could be it could be the growth horse, or it could be the infrastructure horse. Like, we can't deliver on time. I had a client several years ago that hadn't delivered on time in 10 years. And it's like, wow.
Wow.
Let's stop there. And they had an amazing product. They had an amazing following, but they couldn't get out of their own way. And so it was a manufacturing client, and we ended up reconfiguring sort of the workflow and really pressing in on, how they conducted themselves in cross collaborative meetings. And, we ended up, we did it in 10 years. They got to deliver on time. But to me, I love it. It's like, the company has all the pieces of the puzzle, and they don't have the cover of what the puzzle is supposed to look like when it comes together. And that's where I get really excited about the work, because I can start seeing that box. I can start to see what it looks like when it all comes together. And then it's just a matter of putting the pieces in the right place so that the business can be, all the things that they want.
I love that. And so anytime you find these little chunks of blockages, is that what you refer to as a crisis catalyst?
Yep. It's where you hit that wall. You've been trying to get through this for some length of time, and they're predictable. I mean, they're very predictable, which I find so fascinating. And I think that's why it's taken me a long time to put this in a book format, because this is like my Kentucky Fried secret recipe in my back pocket. so the more I talk about it, I'm like, it's so simple. Yeah, to me, but it's not. So yeah, that is the crisis catalyst. It is that wall that they hit. It's very predictable. And to me, I love working with the early stagers, stage 1, stage 2, because I know exactly what that crisis catalyst, and they're going to know exactly what it is. So wouldn't it be great to start a business knowing the map all the way to, empire building, staying fresh, which is level 6 or stage 6? It'd be amazing, to know what it's going to look like and know what I'm going to hit before I hit it, because then I can start to predict the signs that it's showing up, rather than, we haven't delivered on time in 10 years. It's like, we should have figured that out 9.5 years ago.
Well, we know there's a problem. We just don't know how to fix it or address it or change it. So,
yeah. And I love like the more complex, messy, toxic, interesting, like that's the stuff I really love digging into, because, sometimes when I'm like the third or fourth consultant in the room, aside from being met with a big stink eye at first, because they're like, another consultant, great. But oftentimes it's not that the previous consultants were not good. They were great. They just didn't have the blueprint. They didn't have the map. So they were solving for something that wasn't the primary issue. And so it felt like this super complex thing. But in essence, once we got aligned on what it was, then it's like, oh, okay, this is what we have to do to get by that.
Well, like when you say, well, it felt like a super complicated thing. Like feelings can misrepresent. That's not necessarily accurately what's going on. It may feel messy and tangled, but that may not be the case. It's just, and I've said so many times for so many years, perception is reality. So how you perceive may not necessarily be how the other, like if you have business partners or multiple people in the business, they may not perceive it that way. Yeah. And so you have to kind of, the little part psychology, part, actionable strategy, I think is a good balance. Because, I've had a lot of coaches like, how do you feel? Like, I don't care how I feel. I need the numbers. I need the data. I need all of the statistics. That's how I feel is I want to know. Right.
Yeah, we got to know. We have to be able to see it. That's why like every client that I have has a data dashboard, so they know how they're performing at any given time. Without that, we're flying blind. It's hard to make good decisions. It's hard to know when to shift time and attention and resources if we don't have the data telling us how to, we're not leveraging it. So yeah, that's a really critical one for sure. Yeah.
Another question, how do you see the conversation around organizational maturity evolving in the next few years? Like being in business as long as we have, like Terry and I, we've had 3 separate businesses together. We've been self-employed 23 years. Like I've never really thought or heard or discussed organizational maturity. That's kind of a new thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at scaling and revenue and those hard words, right? The concrete words, not necessarily the abstract. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And the concrete data has to be there. That's for sure. I mean, like stage 1, if there's no cash in the bank, we're not moving to stage 2. So the numbers have to be there. The maturity piece, I even struggled with that. I worked with perplexity through that one actually, because I'm like, is it really maturity? Because I don't want people to think, oh, I'm in stage 1, so I'm immature. So the way I sort of thought about it was, look at a human. A baby is not worth more or less than an older person. They just are where they are in their journey. So a baby can't go out and drive a car. Their legs aren't long enough. No, I'm just kidding. there's more to it than just that. But there's a lot of elements that have to take place that infant or that toddler has to move through before they get to the maturity where, and I'm not just talking intellectual maturity, it's like the whole thing, the whole being has to mature to a place where it can drive a car. And so the same is really true with organizations. A startup isn't better or worse than stage 6 or stage 4. They just are where they are. And again, it's not, our minds tend to go to good, bad, bigger's better, higher's better. In this case, it's not. That's where maturity, that's where I struggled with it. So it's really compared to where you want your business to be, to hang out. So not all have to go to stage 6. If you do, then there's a path to get there. That doesn't mean you're going to be corporate. It doesn't mean you're going to have more revenue, more headcount, or be in business longer. It can just be that you slipped through those crises catalysts more quickly. So a small little business can be stage 6 without being $50 million or more and 350 employees and be in business for 15 years. So that's really where the maturity overlays on top of the data. And I do hope that becomes a more interesting and like it's just another dimension of the business versus just headcount, number of years, and revenue, because that doesn't tell the whole story. And really the maturity piece is how well the organization is leveraging data, systems, and processes, their leadership, their culture, these 10 elements per stage. How well are they leveraging those and aligning them so that they are providing value to their stakeholders? And I think that's really where maturity and value creation, that's where that marries those two. An immature company is providing value to stakeholders, not all of them, because they're proving their model. But at each stage, that shifts and change a little bit what value creation looks like, what data we collect, what the culture feels like, how leadership makes decisions. These are all different elements of each stage that evolve. And so I like the maturity. I struggle with it a little bit still, just because I know the human brain goes to, well, I'm in stage 1. Does that mean I'm immature? It's like, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Call me when you're ready to go to stage 2 if you're struggling.
So, and I know that you've got vast experience with like large corporations, you referenced stakeholders, that kind of thing. What do you have for a solopreneur, like one person that is doing their thing and, they're in their lane, they want to grow and scale, but they're not looking at a staff of 50, 500, 5,000. What do you have for that person?
So it's really not different. It's kind of fractal from the individual to team to organization. So if that solopreneur is creating value, they're solving a problem or fulfilling a need somewhere in the ethosphere, then that's it. They are serving their stakeholders. So the stakeholders might get more complex as the business grows and evolves, but a solopreneur has the same challenges, just at maybe a different level. So and this is how I kind of think about it. So my daughter, Emma, she's 17. She got her first job when she was 15. And this is actually a super funny story. She called and she's like, "Oh, Mom, I got to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, no." You know those calls. You're like, "We got to talk." I'm like, "Oh, no. What happened?" And she said, "Well, I was at Ivy and Sage, and they had a help wanted sign in the window. And so I went up to the desk and I asked about it, and they interviewed me right on the spot, and I got the job. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Congratulations. Do they know how old you are?" "Congratulations." So she was very proud of herself. And then before her first day of work, she's like, "I'm really nervous. My stomach hurts. I don't know, I don't know if I can do this." And I said, "All you have to do is solve a problem or fulfill a need at work for the owner, for customers that come in, for your coworkers. If you're always looking through the lens of how can I solve a problem or fulfill a need for someone, you are doing your job." And they'll train you. They're going to tell you all the technical things that you need to do, but just create value. So she went in and she did great. That was in October. She turned 16 3 months later and got promoted to a manager. And I was like, again, do they know how old you are? Says, "Congratulations, you did, that's awesome." So fast forward a year, she works there for a year, doing a great job. She gets fired. She calls me from the parking lot crying, "Mom, I got fired." I'm like, "Congratulations." She's like, "Wait, what?" I said, "It's going to happen. It's going to happen in life. Sometimes things happen." What happened? So she told me the story, and she didn't do anything egregious. It was kind of actually a misunderstanding, because during the process, the owner offered her a different job, and she's like, "I can't work for you." So she got another job, and it's the job she's in now. But the same butterflies struck the night before she went to work. She's like, "I've never worked. I don't know what to do. I'm nervous." I'm like, "What did I tell you last time?" She was like, "Oh, that's right. It's like to solve a problem, fulfill a need. Like, that's it. Keep it simple." Yeah. And so she's been there for a while, and she's already been promoted to a lead, and it's very exciting. So it doesn't have to be super complex. It can be at a solopreneur level. If I'm always looking through the lens of how do I solve a problem, fulfill a need for those who need my services or my product, then you can't go wrong. Like that's the right trajectory to be on.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I was raised, whatever you do, you put your whole heart and all your effort into it. You do a good, thorough job.
Yep.
Don't have my dad would say, "Don't half-ass it."
Yeah, exactly.
Typical dad stuff, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's just with anything, that's the expectation.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yeah. And I think there's one other thing I think that'd be helpful is at the individual level and at the big level, that's all great. There is that team level. So one thing I find with clients that this is an area that they struggle at all stages. It's how does each team member know how what they do on a day-to-day basis, however exciting or mundane, how does that link to the impact that the business makes, over the overarching business, the entity? They're creating value in the marketplace. How does what I do from day to day contribute to that? And I have found that the companies that can make that really clear to their team members, they accelerate, they move much faster through the crises than companies that don't. And I have a whole model about that, but I don't have time for that one today.
Well, no, but that's a good point, because there was a time, and this was, I don't know, probably a year ago, we were overhauling our content division, that side of it. And, I understand that blogging is not sexy. I get it. I know it's not sexy, but I was talking to a team member, and I was like, I don't think you get it. And I wasn't explaining well before, but I'm like, that is literally one of the things that a client sees. As a client, they're not going to know about backlinks and siloing and our internal linking structure, our external linking structure, syndication, all of the things that we do. Because when I try to explain SEO, I always say, it's very multifaceted, like a diamond. There's so many parts and pieces that move together that shine. I said, but the blogging is absolutely something a client sees. It is on their website. They go to their website. What are you doing for me? I can give them a spreadsheet of, 50 things that we did that month, but they're going to see the blogs. And so I explained that. I'm like, that's a big impact you can make for a client that they can visibly see. They don't see the links. They don't see, the keyword research and all the back end stuff. So, by explaining that, I think that made an impact. Like, this particular team member has become super, super strong, one of our very valuable team members. And I think maybe explaining that. So that's my goal, is to explain to the rest of the team members how their part and piece fits into the whole, makes everything shine, glisten, sparkle, all
Yeah.
that. But
Well, they're each one facet of that diamond. What they do is one
exactly.
facet. So that's a great analogy and way to help them see that the work that they're doing. Because you're right, sometimes it isn't the most glamorous or sexy work. It's like we have to do this to stay in business.
Yeah.
And so, but you can make it. So, like when I worked with the C-17 team, that's what the Rudolph Factor is about. You know, a lot of them are doing literally like putting rivets in airplanes. It's not very exciting work. But when you ask that person what they do, they're getting our troops safely around the world. They're contributing to humanitarian that the C-17 participates in. So they saw their work so differently, so much more strategically than what you actually see them doing. And which is no wonder that, they were able to go from near cancellation to winning the National Quality Award in 5 years. 10,000 people got aligned around that concept, and were able to really turn the big giant boat and really come together. So it's very powerful.
No, that's really important. And I know that there are a few people in our industry that really do focus on your staff, your employees, your team, because that's critical. Because at bottom line, I can't do all things myself. Like, I need my team. I love my team. I have a great team right now. I want to keep them all. Because I don't want to do all the work all myself, right? Like, but they work really well together. That synergy together makes it fun and easy to come to work. You know what I mean? So,
well, and like, if you think about engagement at work, that's a big one that I just like a little different way of thinking about it right now. Gallup has said for, I don't know, 2-3 decades that, 60% of the workforce, or 2/3 of the workforce, is basically not engaged. And then companies throw all these perks and coddling the employee, make them happy. What's our employee happiness score? And really, to me, we're doubling down on what hasn't worked for decades. So it's really, how can we as leaders create the conditions for our team members to show up and be engaged in the work? And that's by, having processes that work. Like, if you bring someone in every day and the stuff that they manage is just like a major, pardon language, major shit show, then that's not going to feel good. They're not going to want to engage. So helping create those conditions for them to be like, wow, I love where I work. It's amazing. And then, challenging them. So they have gratitude from the way things show up, challenging them to do things that they don't know that they can do, but you see their potential and you push them to do that. Then they get some pride in the work. And then that being a part of something bigger is what we just talked about, that aligning what I do today to what the entity does, the impact that the entity makes. And that, I call that the modern day GPA: gratitude, pride, and being a part of something bigger than yourself. And to me, that has a much more powerful and profound effect on business than just trying to make employees feel happy. It just doesn't work, because then they just want more. And then we're just trying to do more and more. And it's like, what is this all about anyway? So,
well, I also want to speak a little bit to the core value index that you utilize. And that's something, oh my gosh, I love that, because Terry and I have always, we tend to not give up on people quickly. And everybody says, hire slow, fire fast. And I'm like, I'm going to give them a chance. Like, I think they could be valuable. Like, but I don't know what they're good at. So speak to that a little bit, the CVI.
Okay. Yeah, the core value index, I came across that. I think it was just last year. It feels like 7 years ago in dog years, but yeah, I think it was just last year. And again, my daughter, teenage girl these days, have some interesting conversations. So I made her take it. I was in a webinar and learned about it, and I made her take it because we were just not communicating well with each other, and I wanted to test it. And she's kind of my guinea pig for things. So she took it, and I was intrigued because the way that she mapped out, and the core value index is really about your hard wiring. So it's not personality, it's not situational, it's not, it's 97.7% reliable. So she took it at 15. If she takes it at 45, there's a near 100% chance that her map will be exactly the same 40 years from now or 30 years from now. So she took it, then I took it, and mine was quite different. I'm an innovator. I'm a problem solver. Go figure.
Yay, that works well for you.
And I'm very much a problem solver. That's why the messy, complex, toxic is like interesting to me. What I learned is when I'm talking to Emma, I ask her lots of just, how is school? How are your friends? How are things going? Well, at some point, her innovator gas tank runs out, and she didn't want to be asked any more questions. But for me, I would double down and ask more questions because I'm like, now she's shutting down. I'm going to ask more questions. Well, I learned like that doesn't work. Don't double down on what's not working. So now I know to go to where she's at. Like, it's like common sense, but now I know where she's at. I know where she maps. I know if I need to go to the more detail-oriented, evidence-based Emma, or if I need to go to the relationship building part of Emma. But it's helped our relationship profoundly. And then I started, learning more about it, got certified as a facilitator, and all of my senior leadership teams have to take the CVI because while I have got a really good vibe of people in a room and I can connect dots pretty quickly, this gives me something to really look at and go, oh, well, this makes perfect sense. So as an example, one of my clients, they had a lot of innovators. It's a SaaS company, a lot of innovators, a handful of bankers. So risk mitigation along with problem solving made a lot of sense. Very, very moderate in the relationship building, but they had enough that new business was easy and so forth. But their builder, there was one person on the team who had great builder, but it was not the CEO. It was not the COO. It was not the finance person. It was the marketing person. And so after some conversation, I realized I need to promote him into the COO role because we would create all these really interesting things to do, but no one was driving them. So we restructured an executive team and we restructured the executive team and senior leadership team, moved this one individual into the COO role. And it's been amazing because that's how he's hardwired. He's hardwired to decide and go. And yes, we have all of the other components covered. We were missing that. It was a real problem. Now, builder is my second primary core value. So I was fulfilling that as the consultant with them, and I've been with them for several years. And I kind of knew that I was driving. But at some point as a consultant, you want to be able to pass the baton and then really just be an equal brain in the room and be able to contribute in a different way. So once we made that transition, it was a game changer. So now I'm a member of the executive team. I'm not having to drive so hard because we got the driver in place.
I love that because you have to put people in the right place so that they can succeed, so the company can succeed. And I do see where like maybe an employee sees a lot of these shifts and changes and be like, what are they doing? Do they even know what they're doing? But those strategic alignments is only going to benefit the business, the company.
Right. Well, and are they hardwired for the work you have them doing? So somebody who's not, I think about them like gas tanks. So if my innovator gas tank is very big, I can swim in that all day long. I mean, it can be dark outside and I'm like, oh, the day passed, huh? What happened? But, throw me in banker mode, which is the detail process. I love all of that. I don't want to hang out there for a long time. I want to get in there, use my brain in that capacity, but then I want to go back to problem solving. That's just how I'm wired. So when I understand how people, are wired on their teams, I can very easily say, you've got that person doing business development. They can hardly access that gas tank. It's very small. They can do it for a little while, but that's going to burn them out and fatigue them very quickly. So again, it's not good, bad. It's really just leveraging people's hard wiring for putting them in the work that they're going to excel at and that they're going to really be passionate about.
Yeah. Just another tool as you're digging in.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have a lot of tools for sure. It's just knowing which tool to pull out at the right time to help the client get, where they'd like to go. Yeah.
What's one question you wish more leaders would ask themselves?
Why am I doing this? No, honestly, I'm kind of kidding, but not. But they need to ask themselves, what's enough? How big do we want to be? And then they need to have that conversation with their partners and or other senior leaders, and or if they're a solopreneur, be really clear on it on their own. Because there is this conception that we have to grow, and everything has to be big, big, big. And that's not the reality. It is based upon what's enough, and why are we in business? I love this question at speaking engagements, literally around the globe. This is not just a US thing, but if I say, why are we in business? People will shout out to make money. And I'll put number 3, make money. What's number 1 and 2? And it's like, and it goes back to that, solve a problem, fulfill a need. I mean, let's keep it simple. So if
I love that.
Yeah, if they're doing it, then they're on the right track. And that's where it's kind of fractal from the individual, the team, and the organizational level. It's just creating value is how we get to where we want to go. But we got to know where we want to go. A map isn't good if you don't know where you want to go.
Exactly. Or why are you going there? Because you could take a bus, a train, or a car, or walk.
Yeah. And I think one other question I would want leaders to ask themselves is the challenge that I think that I'm facing the real challenge, or is it something else? And being curious enough to look at culture, leadership, systems, processes, all of those things, all of the components, to say, wow, I thought it was a leadership problem, or I thought we had a culture problem, but actually we just don't have a foundation in place. And then it's like, oh, well, let's solve for that instead of throwing a bunch of money at fixing our culture and doing, team building exercises, because those will never work if it's not that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So here's a fun question. If you could ask your younger self one question about business or leadership, what would it be? What was young Cyndi
doing this? No, my younger self, I don't know. Gosh, I don't know how can I make a better impact in the world? Really, I mean, that's really it. It's like, how can I get the most? This life's short, man. I want to get my money's worth. So what can I do to make a bigger impact?
Well, I love how enthusiastic you are. And especially when it's like big, crazy problems, like you get really excited about that.
I know.
Really excited about that.
It's my hard wiring. But I joke. It's like, it's a sickness. I can't turn it off.
It's a good thing for us. It's a good thing for us. So if anyone is interested in taking the next step, I put the link to your website, Guide to Greatness. I know that there's some valuable information there. I know you're on LinkedIn a lot. I see you there, definitely connecting with people. Yes. I'll pop up the QR code here in a minute, but what are your recommendations for if they want to get moving and figure out where they are and where they want to go?
Yeah, just, contact me or best next step, take the growth readiness scorecard. If you don't want to do that, then just reach out to me and tell me what's going on and see if there's something I can do to help.
Awesome. What are you looking forward to this year for business, for growth, I know you are doing quite a few speaking engagements.
Yeah, it's a busy year. To me, the book, The Orchestrated Randomness, How to Create Your Own Luck in Business and Life, like that's super exciting for me. It's been a long time. I bought the domain for it like 15 years ago, orchestratedrandomness.com, but I couldn't really figure out what I wanted it to be. I was nervous to give away my secret sauce, but it's time. So I'm really excited for it to come out and help companies, create their own paths to their next level, whatever that happens to be.
What sparked with you that now is the time? Because if you've had the domain for 15 years, this has been marinating.
Yes. Yeah, I think part of it was the framework. It wasn't like, I feel it's really dialed in now. It's just itty bitty little tweaks to it, but I think the framework wasn't quite ready yet. And I think maybe I'm in a place in my life where it's time. I feel, I love the complex challenges. I can get bored sometimes, and, loving that complexity of business and keeping me engaged is important. So I think the time's now. Who knows? It's a God thing. I don't know.
What else do we got? Do you have anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to dig in? I don't necessarily have a hard stop. I know I've got things to do.
Yeah.
I've got a business to grow.
Yes. Yeah, I think, the best thing I could offer people is to really be curious. Don't be fearful of what you're going to find when you open up that closet, with the dead bodies in it. I'm just kidding. Just be curious about all aspects of your business. I think what happens is a lot of business owners in time get a little bit jaded, a little frustrated, and they forget to be curious like they were in the early days. So really, overturn every rock, look and see what's there, and then start collecting some data, because that's really, I think, how they start tracking their own progress. But that curiosity is important.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And data is important. You got to
Yes.
have the numbers, what's working, what's not working, where, who, what, where, when, why, how.
Yeah. And if you're not a data person, find someone on your team who is, because it's that important.
Cindy's a data person. Put Cyndi on your team.
I do like my data.
She'll turn over some rocks and uncover some skeletons. And
yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks
I love and appreciate you greatly.
Thanks.
I want everybody else to know you and love you like I do. So, fangirling.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will talk soon. And everyone else, like, share, subscribe, follow, do all the things, watch all the videos, get Cyndi out there, all the things.
Yeah. Get the brain working.
Get your brain working.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.